Hello, yours. Today we are going to discuss non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, and the representative drug of this group is aspirin, which is also called acetyl salicylic acid. We will discuss mechanism of action and clinical uses as well as the toxicity of aspirin in this lecture. First of all, let's talk about the mechanism of action of aspirin. Whenever a stimulus hits the cell membrane, there is phospholipid which is converted into arachidonic acid, and you can see here in this diagram the green blocks are basically the enzyme which are shown here, the phospholipase C, cyclooxygenase, and lipoxygenase. Phospholipid as stimulus hits the cell membrane, phospholipid in the cell membrane is converted into arachidonic acid with the help of phospholipase C. And this arachidonic acid is again converted into either prostaglandin or prostacyclin with the help of cyclooxygenase, and this arachidonic acid may be converted into leukotrienes with the help of lipoxygenase. Now, see here the red blocks, they are basically the drugs which are interfering the enzymes which are acting upon this cascade of reactions. Now, if arachidonic acid is converted into prostaglandins or prostacyclins, this physiological effects are taking place like inflammation, pain, fever, and platelet aggregation. On the other hand, if arachidonic acid is converted into leukotrienes, there may be phagocytic attraction and activation, which leads to inflammation and bronchoconstriction and increase in bronchial secretion due to the release of leukotrienes. Whenever we are inhibiting cyclooxygenase with the help of NSAID, these kind of effects like inflammation, pain, fever, and platelet aggregation, all these actions are reversed, and that's why by the use of NSAID, we may have anti-inflammatory effect and analgesic effect, antipyretic effect, and platelet aggregation inhibition. Now, I want to get your attention on aspirin. Aspirin is irreversible inhibitor of cyclooxygenase 1 and cyclooxygenase 2. Cyclooxygenase have two effects. One, it promote platelet aggregation, and other, it has a protective mechanism. It can protect the gastric mucosa, and that's why the balance between the acid production takes place. If we inhibit the cyclooxygenase 1 with the help of aspirin, we have one good effect like platelet aggregation inhibition. At the same time, affecting our gastric mucosa we are inhibiting cyclooxygenase 1, and the protective mechanism is also interfered. Sometimes we use selective COX-2 inhibitor. They are very beneficial for protecting gastric mucosa because they only inhibit cyclooxygenase 2 and do not affect cyclooxygenase 1. The benefit is, now let's talk about the antiplatelet effect of aspirin. Aspirin is platelet aggregation inhibitor, and it inhibits the COX enzyme. That's why the conversion of arachidonic acid into prostaglandin, and ultimately the synthesis of thromboxane A2 is inhibited, and that's why the aggregation of platelets is inhibited. It's very important to note that aspirin can have the effect for 7 to 10 days. The reason behind this is that platelet is a anucleated cell, and it cannot again synthesize its cyclooxygenase enzyme. Aspirin irreversibly inhibit this enzyme, and for its whole life, the enzyme is not synthesized and thromboxane is not synthesized. That's why the effect of aspirin lasts for 7 to 10 days. Now let's talk about the pharmacokinetics of aspirin. Absorption of aspirin through oral route is excellent. Its metabolism takes place through phase 1 and phase 2. Aspirin is converted into salicylates with the help of hydrolysis, and these salicylates are conjugated through glucuronic acid into glucuronides. These are 10%. Most of the salicylates are converted into salicylic acid, that is 70%, with the help of conjugation with glycine, and very minor amount is oxidized into gentisic acid, that is 1%. The 10% of the salicylates remains free, and they are excreted through the urine. But if we cause the toxicity of aspirin, these free salicylates are increased percentage, and they may cause different types of toxicity, which we will discuss later on. These are the effects which aspirin can produce: analgesic activity, antipyretic activity, anti-inflammatory activity, and specifically, it can inhibit platelet aggregation. For the purpose, we commonly use the aspirin in low dose. In high doses and in toxic doses, for example, from 600 milligram to 2 grams per day, it may cause GI bleeding, and from 2 to 5 grams per day, it may cause CNS toxicity like tinnitus, headache, confusion, and hyperventilation, that is respiratory alkalosis. And there are some metabolic disorders like metabolic acidosis due to the buildup of lactic acid, and hyperkalemia due to the increase in acidity. Further, if we increase the dose more than 5 grams per day, it may cause renal insufficiency and renal failure, and it may cause infiltration of the bronchial fluids, and it may cause pulmonary edema. It may cause or may aggravate Ray's syndrome. What is Ray's syndrome? It is basically the mitochondrial dysfunction in children, and it may cause liver damage and brain swelling. And if we use aspirin for these children, the Ray's syndrome, this situation may aggravate, and mitochondrial dysfunction may aggravate, and there may be increased liver damage and brain swelling. Again, these are the areas related to the aspirin: GI bleeding, renal insufficiency, hypersensitivity, and Ray's syndrome. This video is useful for others. Please like and share.